Hey, my name's James Nicholson and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to talk about are Labour. Are they going to hit landlords from another angle? They're talking about AirBNB a lot in the Commons at the moment. Now, Labour want to improve the rental scenario. We've got absolute carnage in the rental market. Rents are up 8.5% this year alone, 4 times higher than inflation. Rental stock is just not there, and more landlords are quitting than ever before. So are they now considering stopping or shutting down or making it considerably more difficult to run an Airbnb property? I'm going to talk about why this potentially might happen and what we can maybe do about this in this video, and why is it happening. So before we jump into this, if you haven't done already, do subscribe to the channel over there and hit the bell notification. We've got new content every single day. In fact, this week we've got 2 videos coming out some days because there's so much going on in the property world. We've got the Leasehold Reform Act, we've got the Renters' Rights Bill, we've got rents surging, we've got house prices going up and down in different areas. There's so much going on, so do subscribe to get all that property information. And while you're here, smash like, tick or like, do something to that like button. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm, helps us get more views. So I appreciate everybody that takes a moment to do that. So, Labour, they're debating in the House of Commons this week, in fact, multiple times, about Airbnb. And the reason is we have a rental crisis. And Labour are looking at ways to resolve that crisis. Now, we've talked a lot about the Renters' Rights Bill recently on the channel. We had a video that got 100,000 views. So go and watch that if you didn't do that already. We've talked about landlords are quitting the market at the moment. And Labour are looking at where can they pull more rental stock into the property market. Now, they've promised to build 1.5 million houses. Is that happening? Well, it will take some time to see, obviously. They're not going to have any built by now, but we'll see each year. Does that happen? I think that's unlikely. Every government has promised that for decades and it just doesn't happen. You've got to have the incentive for the builders of low interest rates and a busy market. And right now, there isn't lots of house price sales going on. The market is slower. It's picked up 10%, but it still isn't a massively booming market at the moment. So if you were a builder, would you want to build when interest rates are high, when there isn't lots of buyers in the market, or would you wait until that improves? So Labour, they're talking about Airbnb destroying communities. And I understand that. I understand if you have a block of flats and maybe a quarter of them are Airbnb, it doesn't feel like a community in that block because you're going to have people in and out. Maybe some people have parties at those Airbnbs, and it can be frustrating for the people that live near an Airbnb. And maybe if they're houses and they've got an Airbnb guest in there, when you go to the shop, you don't see the same people, and it just doesn't build that community feel. That's one of the problems that Labour's got with that. Next is the rental stock. They are taking a huge chunk of the rental stock. In fact, in the West End of London, 20% of flats are Airbnb, which is insane. And that has driven rents up significantly for people that want to live there, that work there. It's really hard to get a property in that area, even if you have the money and you want one, because there is a severe lack of stock in that area. And what Labour are saying is that, well, look, that needs to go back into the rental market. We need people to live in these areas, and that's really important, and push people back in to hotels. You're going to get the hotels lobbying the government as well. Of course, they're going to want Airbnb to be shut. Now, why are people running Airbnbs? Well, a lot of landlords have decided to change from standard rentals to Airbnb. And I want to tell you quickly why that's a consideration. One is it's more tax efficient. When you rent a property to an individual or a family on a standard assured short hold tenancy, something called Section 24 kicks in, where you pay tax on the gross rent. When you run it as an Airbnb, it can be run as a business, and in that instance, the tax is going to be significantly lower. So some people have chosen to go that route for that. What else have you got? Well, a lot of landlords are also scared of something called Section 21. Now, Section 21 is something called a no-fault eviction, and it means you can get your property back for any reason. You give the tenant notice, and within 2 months, you can get the property back. Now, that gives some landlords comfort that if they get a bad tenant that destroys the property or doesn't pay the rent, that's normally the main reason that they're considering this, that they can get the property back without a long drawn-out court case and not getting paid rent for a year. The government has said that they're going to remove Section 21, and by removing it, that gives lots of landlords fear, and they've left the market because of that. With an Airbnb rental, if you're a landlord, the tenant, their short-term stay, they don't have any rights. That's really, really important for the landlords, right? And so they can, if you don't pay, or you stay or squat, they can get you out with the police quite quickly. It's very, very different rules then. Next is the interest rates. So interest rates have hit hard. And this isn't a sob story for landlords, but they do hit landlords harder because landlords pay interest only. So if your interest rate was 1% and it went up to 6%, your interest payments went up 6 times. Someone in the comments told me that wasn't true. Go and look at an interest-only calculator. Put what a mortgage would be at a 1% rate, then a 6% rate. You'll see it's 6 times higher. Let's just say their interest rate was 2% and it went to 4%. That doubles. That means they might lose money on renting out their property. With Airbnb, a landlord can charge significantly more per night, and they can make maybe double or treble what they would renting it out as a normal property. Now, of course, there's more stuff to do. They've got to clean it. They've got to have furniture in there, and they've got to have it to a higher standard as an Airbnb. But the margins are significantly higher. So you've moved landlords into that sector. Now, what happens if Labour ban it? Well, if Labour ban Airbnb or make it more restrictive, then what I see that would probably happen is those landlords would look to sell the properties. Now, that would put more properties back in that first-time buyers could buy, that residential people could buy. That's good. But again, it would still not improve that rental stock. I don't think that those landlords would suddenly move it back onto a normal residential property like the government is hoping. And that's a problem. And that doesn't fix the rental crisis. I think the rental crisis is something that tenants should be concerned about and landlords. And we should have some smart conversations about how this can be fixed. Just beating the landlord over the head constantly isn't going to resolve this issue for anyone. Anyway, that's potentially what I'm seeing in my crystal ball. If you listen and read and see the government talking a lot about Airbnb being bad for rents and bad for rental properties, then of course they're likely to look to make it more difficult. In London, you can only rent a property for 90 days a year. That is something that's more difficult. And I think other places will look to potentially do the same. I also think you'll have to jump through more hoops or maybe get licenses that cost lots of money, and that will push more people out the market. Maybe there'll be less Airbnbs then. Let me know your thoughts, questions, observations or opinions below, or just say hi in the videos. That really makes a difference to every comment. I personally reply as well. Do smash like, do check out all the other content on my channel, including this video right here.